At a party, a year after our breakup, the socialites suddenly brought up my ex-girlfriend, Chloe Williams, calling her one of the few truly devoted people in our circle. I just scoffed. If she's devoted to anyone, it's probably her little assistant, Julian. But they shot me disapproving glances. You just got back in the country, haven't you? You don't know anything. I was confused. After all, no one knew better than me how much she doted on Julian. The next words out of their mouths hit me like a bolt of lightning. The love of her life is her boyfriend, Ethan. But as the man who had been her boyfriend for 3 years, the words sounded utterly absurd. I remembered all too well how her precious little assistant, Julian, loved to use her affection as a weapon in a cruel game he played with me. Before each disappearance, he would intentionally leak his location to me, tilting his head with a smile that was both innocent and malicious. Do you think Chloe will tear you apart to find me? He played that game 8 times and I lost every single one. The 9th time he vanished, Chloe locked me in a sauna cranked to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The instant the glass door clicked shut, the searing air felt like 1,000 tiny needles piercing my skin. My face flushed a deep crimson as I struggled for each breath, a luxury in the oppressive heat. Chloe stood just outside, calmly twisting a ring on her finger, her voice like ice. Last chance. Tell me where you hid Julian. I threw myself against the scorching door, pounding on it until my palms were seared with bloody imprints that dried almost instantly in the heat. I don't know, I really don't know, I rasped, my throat so dry it felt like it was splitting. Chloe, please let me out. I can't take much more of this. I have a congenital heart condition. It's a miracle I've even made it to adulthood. This kind of heat could kill me at any moment. Chloe ignored my pleas, her finger tapping the temperature control. It's just a sauna. It won't kill you. And compared to what you did to Julian, this is nothing. Still not talking? The moment she pressed the button, I heard my heart hammer against my ribs. Then I'll just have to turn it up higher. As my vision blurred, I suddenly remembered an address Julian had posted on Facebook a couple of days ago. With my last ounce of strength, I screamed, I'll talk. The storage room at the old amusement park on the north side. Chloe heard me and immediately bolted, shouting to the guards at the door as she left, Don't you dare let him out until I call. Half an hour later, the phone finally rang. Chloe had found Julian, and I was finally dragged out. I was drenched in sweat, my temperature dangerously high. I was unconscious for an entire night, my fever spiking again and again, and my past with Chloe played out in my mind like a fever dream. Chloe was a close friend of my mother's, despite their age difference, and she was always at our house when I was growing up. I was frail with a poor appetite, so she'd work her magic, having fresh fruits and vegetables delivered daily from all over the world. Pine berries from South America, Kawano melons from Africa, picked at dawn and sitting on my plate by lunchtime. Couture suits that celebrities would kill for, worth a fortune, would appear in my closet the day after I merely mentioned they looked nice. My mother used to tease me, I swear that Chloe is going to marry you one day. I'd always deny it, saying no way, but secretly, the thought was sweeter than honey. For my 18th birthday, Chloe staged a proposal that took over the entire city. Every street corner was blanketed in my favorite white roses. For 3 days and nights, a fleet of drones spelled out, Ethan Sterling, marry me, against the night sky. On a luxury yacht, she nestled against me and whispered, her voice soft, say yes, Ethan, not just in this life, but in the next, and the one after that, I'll only ever love you. Beneath a sky exploding with fireworks, I gave her my answer with a firm nod. But the good times were short-lived. Within 6 months, the Sterling family business collapsed, and my mother, overcome with grief, fell gravely ill. On her deathbed, she took Chloe's hand. Chloe, when I'm gone, you have to take care of Ethan. You two must be happy together for the rest of your lives. Chloe nodded solemnly. You can count on me. After that, Chloe moved me into the Williams estate. Everyone in Northwood City knew that Chloe Williams loved me to her very core, that I was the only one for her. And then Julian showed up. The new male assistant was hopelessly clumsy. Chloe even had to teach him how to peel a shrimp. He's a little slow, but he's so innocent, she said, the first time she ever mentioned Julian to me. The affection in her voice was like a slow, creeping heat that made my chest ache. Julian swapped out her finest tea, meant for important clients, with cheap bubble tea, costing her a multi-million-dollar partnership. Chloe just patted his hand gently. That's just our Julian, so spontaneous. He doesn't understand all that corporate nonsense. When Julian ruined one of my limited edition suits by accidentally spilling ink on it, Chloe didn't even bat an eye before buying him an identical one. At my 21st birthday party, as Chloe was cutting the cake, she suddenly drifted off. Julian adores blueberries. If he were here, he'd be begging to eat the whole thing. In that instant, I knew. The man named Julian had taken up residence in Chloe's heart, and there was no longer any room for me. Soon, Julian was a permanent fixture in the house, finding new and creative ways to provoke me. I gritted my teeth and pretended not to care. That's when he started his little disappearing game. A game he played 8 times and a game I lost 8 times. In my dream, Chloe's interrogating face loomed closer and closer until I jolted awake, my pajamas drenched in cold sweat. I sat up in bed, staring out at the desolate night, and a profound weariness washed over me. The Chloe who had once been my salvation had vanished completely. With that thought, I dug out the acceptance letter from the bottom of my trunk and dialed a number. Mr. Davis, about the Art Academy in Europe. I'll be there on time for orientation. Ethan, are you sure about this? Mr. Davis sounded shocked. With your health, will your family approve? I'd wanted to leave before, but Chloe always stopped me. At first, her pleas were gentle. Ethan, you're too frail. I'd worry myself sick if you traveled alone. When you're stronger, I'll take you to see the world myself. But later, that gentleness curdled into impatient warnings. Your mother entrusted you to me. That makes you my responsibility. Behave yourself and stop causing trouble. That was why I never dared tell her I'd been accepted to a school abroad. I don't have a family anymore, I said, my voice raw, a bitter smile on my lips. Mr. Davis, I need to get out there and make my own way. I was done living under her roof, done with the humiliation of clinging to a woman who no longer loved me. I deserved a life of my own. He sighed on the other end of the line. All right, classes start in a week. You'd better get ready. The second I hung up, the front door downstairs burst open with a violent bang. Chloe stormed in, an icy fury radiating from her that made my blood run cold. Without a word, she grabbed my hand and started dragging me towards the door. The raw, burned skin on my palm screamed in protest as her grip tightened. Where are you taking me? I demanded, trying to pull away. To apologize to Julian. My heart sank. For what? He sprained his ankle yesterday because you frightened him. Her voice was glacial. He spent all night in the hospital in pain. You're the one who caused it. Don't you think you owe him an apology? I actually laughed. I thought it was something serious. It's just a sprained ankle. Chloe, it wasn't me, I said, trying to explain yet again through the tightness in my chest. I only knew where he was because I happened to see his Facebook post. I trailed off, my voice dying in my throat as I saw the look in her eyes. It was the same anger, the same judgment, and even a flicker of hatred I had seen the last 8 times. She didn't believe me. Keep lying, she sneered, the mockery in her voice sharp as glass. Ethan, your mother was such a good woman. How did she end up with such a vicious son? It was the first time Chloe had mentioned my mother since she died, and she used her memory as a weapon. Without giving me a moment to recover, she kicked over a bookshelf. You're not getting out of this apology. Either you come with me willingly, or I'll drag you there myself. In the midst of the chaos, Julian suddenly limped in from the doorway, his eyes red-rimmed. Chloe, don't blame Ethan. He looked up at her, tears glistening in his eyes. It was my fault. I was just running around carelessly. It had nothing to do with him. Then he made a show of trying to kneel before me. Chloe's eyes instantly reddened. She shoved me aside and rushed to pull Julian to his feet. He struggled weakly in her arms. Chloe, don't. I'm the one who should be apologizing to Ethan. It's all my fault you two are fighting. I'm the worst. She gently helped him to the sofa, then turned to me, the fury in her gaze hot enough to incinerate me. Are you happy now? Seeing him like this? I dug my nails into the blistered skin of my palm, the sharp, grounding pain the only thing keeping me from breaking down. The next second, she shoved me to the floor, my knees cracking against the hardwood. Get on your knees and apologize, and we can put this behind us. I held myself rigid, refusing to move. Fine, Chloe's voice dropped several degrees. No apology? Then you can spend the next 10 days in the meditation room copying sutras. A shiver ran down my spine. Ever since Julian started his games, Chloe had taken to locking me in that room, a dark, oppressive space lit by a single candle, forcing me to copy texts by hand. I'd be in there for days, and each time I emerged, I felt like I'd been to hell and back. I was leaving in 7 days. I couldn't let this stop me. A wave of humiliation crashed over me, but I gritted my teeth and forced my head to the floor 3 times. Julian, I'm sorry. Only then did he offer a hand, his voice dripping with false sincerity. Ethan, please don't. I forgave you a long time ago. As I got to my feet, Julian leaned in, hissing in my ear like a snake. I win again, Ethan. I stumbled upright and bent to pick up the scattered books. As I did, The acceptance letter from the art academy slid from an open pocket in my bag and fluttered onto the rug. Chloe snatched it up before I could, her brow furrowed. "What's this?" My heart leaped into my throat. I lunged forward and grabbed the letter back, trying to sound casual. "It's nothing, just some drawing paper." Chloe frowned, smoothing her clothes. "Ethan, stop being so clumsy. There's a dinner party tomorrow night. Get ready. You're coming with me." "I don't want to go," I said, but I knew I had to hide my plans. For the next 7 days, I had to act as if nothing had changed. The Williams car pulled up to the hotel, and as I opened my door, I heard the host greeting another arrival. "Ms. Williams, it's been too long. And this must be your fiancé, Mr. Sterling?" But the host was speaking to Julian, who was dressed in a designer suit with a watch that flashed under the lights. He smiled smoothly. "Mr. Carter, you're too kind. I'm just Ms. Williams' assistant." His eyes flickered towards me, his next words laced with venom. "At least I'm healthy, not frail and sickly like Mr. Sterling." Chloe laughed softly and rubbed her nose against his affectionately. "You're such a sweet talker. No one else would spoil you the way I do." Julian wrapped an arm around her, his hand stroking her hair. "It's the truth, unless Ms. Williams wants me to be something more." The sight of their intimacy was a knife in my gut. I turned to leave, but Chloe's voice stopped me. "The party's about to start. Where do you think you're going?" Leaning on Julian's arm, she walked toward the ballroom without a backward glance, calling over her shoulder, "Don't make a scene out here. Are you trying to embarrass me?" I trailed a few steps behind them, my simple clothes a stark contrast to the glittering crowd. I looked more like their servant than a guest. In these circles, people flock to power and shun weakness. Seeing Chloe's dismissive attitude, the other guests began to look at me with a similar contempt. A few drinks in, a drunk, heavy-set man stumbled over to me. It was Brad Johnson, the heir to the Johnson fortune. He sloshed his drink and slapped me on the shoulder. Well, if it isn't the young master of the Sterling family. Such a frail little thing, a real pretty boy. You look so delicate up close." I recognized him. Back when I rarely left the house, Brad and his friends used to shout obscene taunts at me from outside my window. Chloe had been so furious back then that she'd stormed the Johnson estate and had her men beat him half to death. Clearly, he hadn't forgotten. I took a step back, trying to avoid him, but he pressed forward, jabbing a finger into my chest. "Who are you trying to fool with that holier-than-thou act? Ms. Williams has a new boy toy. You've been replaced. I'm probably the only one here who still remembers you enough to even talk to you." I'd had enough. I grabbed the nearest glass of wine and threw it in his face. Brad immediately collapsed to the floor, pointing at me and screaming, "He threw a drink on me!" In an instant, every eye in the room was on us. Julian, standing beside Chloe, gasped in feigned shock. "Oh, Ethan, how could you? The Johnsons are major partners with the Williams Corporation. Are you trying to sabotage the deal?" Chloe's expression hardened. Julian motioned for a waiter to bring a towel and helped Brad to his feet, dabbing at his suit while making excuses. "Everyone, I'm so sorry. Ethan hasn't been out in a while, he's just acting out. Please, blame me for any offense. After all, he's not well." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What does a heart condition have to do with his personality? He's just a spoiled brat. He only acts like this because he thinks the Williams family will protect him. Poor Chloe, saddled with such ungrateful dead weight. Seeing the crowd turn in his favor, Brad grew bolder. "Ms. Williams, what are you going to do to make this right?" Drowning in their whispers, I looked at Chloe, my voice pleading. "Chloe, please just believe me this one time." He started it, he was insulting me. I only reacted because, "Mr. Sterling, don't make baseless accusations." Brad cut me off. "You claim I was harassing you? Did anyone see that?" The room was silent. Chloe didn't even look at me. She walked straight to Brad. "The West Side Development Project. I'll give you another 3 percentage points. Consider it my apology." Brad grinned. "Now that's more like it. You really should keep a tighter leash on your people, Ms. Williams." And just like that, I was guilty. I stood there utterly alone, first bullied, and now publicly shamed. "Chloe," I called out as she turned to leave, my voice shaking. "Just this once. Can't you believe me just this one time?" She turned back, her eyes dripping with scorn. "Let me make this clear for you. Brad swore to me long ago that he would never lay a finger on you." She dragged me into the hallway and shoved me against the wall. "I know you're still upset about Julian, and you're trying to use the Johnsons to get back at me. I don't care about the money, but why can't you just accept him?" A wave of helplessness washed over me, and the words of my defense died on my lips. "If that's what you want to believe, then fine. I used to argue until I was red in the face, but it never changed anything. I might as well save my breath. In a few more days, none of this would matter anyway. I bent down and slipped off the dress shoes, which were clearly the wrong size. My heels were rubbed raw and swollen. I walked away barefoot, step by step. Chloe had her staff pick them out. She always called me picky and forced me to wear them, never once considering that they simply didn't fit. Watching my dejected retreat, Chloe's brow furrowed, and she took a step to follow. But Julian appeared at her side, leaning against her arm. "Ms. Williams, is Ethan still mad at me? Why else would he embarrass you like that by just walking out?" His words were like a bucket of cold water, dousing the flicker of concern in her heart. "There's nothing to feel sorry for. He brought all of this on himself." She turned and walked back into the hotel, leaving my lonely figure behind without a second thought. With the Johnson deal finalized, Julian soon moved into the Williams estate, using the excuse that he was too busy with work to find an apartment. Chloe's explanation to me was simple. "He's an orphan, he's had a hard life. As his boss, I feel responsible for him. Don't worry, it's only for a few days." I was sitting by the window, staring into space and holding my little Bichon, Snowflake. I heard her words, stroked the dog's head, and said nothing. The moment Chloe was gone, the gentle mask fell from Julian's face. He stormed upstairs to my studio and started destroying everything. He smashed jars of paint, kicked over easels, and sent canvases flying. I heard the crash and ran in, spreading my arms to shield my most precious paintings in the corner. "Julian, what are you doing?" He grabbed a tube of paint and smeared it across a finished canvas. "This junk is an eyesore," he sneered. "I'm going to be the man of this house soon. I should be allowed to take out the trash." Watching him deface the work I had poured my soul into, I felt a physical pain in my chest. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood tall. "Those paintings have been in galleries. They're my life's work. What gives you the right to touch them?" Julian just raised an eyebrow, nonchalantly taking off his expensive watch and tossing it on the floor. "Are they really that valuable? Chloe gave me this a few days ago. It's worth a fortune. Consider it payment." He dusted off his hands, then feigned a sudden realization. "Oh, but I forgot. The great Ethan Sterling is too noble to accept charity. I guess your paintings aren't worth that much after all. In that case, I'll just destroy a couple more to make up the difference." I flew at him like a wild animal, shielding the last painting against the wall with my body. It was a painting of my mother and me, the only one I had. Two small figures running along a riverbank, the water and sky bathed in the golden light of sunset. Before she died, my mother told me she would become that sunlight, that she would always be with me. Julian glanced at it with contempt and reached for it. "If it's so precious to you, I'll destroy this one first." He shoved me to the floor. "Let go of it." Just as his fingers closed around the frame, Snowflake shot through the doorway and sank her teeth into his wrist. Julian screamed, dropping the painting, which tumbled out the open window. I scrambled downstairs to retrieve it. By the time I returned, clutching the precious frame, Snowflake was locked in a cage. Chloe was sitting on the sofa, her face a thundercloud. Julian was beside her, his wrist wrapped in thick bandages, tears streaming down his face. "Ethan, look at what your vicious little beast did." I clutched the cage to my chest, shielding Snowflake with my body. "She was only protecting me. If you're angry, be angry with me." "Ethan, how can you twist the truth like that?" Julian sobbed. "You were the one having a meltdown in the studio, smashing everything. I only went up there to stop you from destroying your own work, and your dog attacked me. I should have just minded my own business." "You're lying, Julian. You were the one destroying everything." I trembled with rage. "Enough." Chloe's voice cracked like a whip. "If you can say that, you obviously don't care about your paintings that much either." Her lips parted, and her words cut like a razor. "Maybe I should just burn all of it, then you'll have nothing left to go crazy over. As for this dog, if it's going to bite people, it doesn't deserve to live." On her command, her bodyguards moved to seize the cage and the painting from me. I was too weak to fight them off. As they ripped the painting and the cage from my grasp, my fingers were twisted painfully. My vision went red with fury, and I staggered forward 2 steps before collapsing. I crawled across the cold floor to her, grabbing the hem of her dress with all my might. "Chloe, I'm begging you. Please, you can't do this. That painting is the last thing I have of my mother. Snowflake got me through the darkest days after she died. They're everything to me. Please don't destroy them." It was as if she hadn't heard me. She was too busy gently cradling Julian's wrist, examining the wound. With no order to stop, the guards started a bonfire in the yard. My paintings crackled as they were consumed by the flames. From inside the cage, Snowflake's whimpers grew faint. 2 guards held me fast. I couldn't move. I stared at the roaring fire and screamed, "Chloe, what has happened to you? Have you forgotten everything we were? I don't want your love anymore." I choked out, my voice trembling with desperation. "You can have the paintings. Just give me back Snowflake. Please, I'm begging you." The moment the words left my mouth, Snowflake's yelp was cut short. I broke free and stumbled into the yard. A pool of blood stained the flagstones. My little dog's head was lolled to the side, her body still. I sank to the ground, shaking uncontrollably. A strangled sound caught in my throat. I couldn't even cry. My mother was gone. Now Snowflake, my companion for 3 years, was gone too. Why did everything that brought me comfort have to be taken away? Chloe came out of the house and saw me there. Her first thought wasn't of comfort, but of my words. "I don't want your love anymore." The phrase stuck in her mind like a thorn, making her chest ache. She hauled me to my feet and slammed me against the wall. "Ethan, when are you going to grow up? Do you think this is some kind of joke? You've been with me since you were 18. If you don't want my love, whose love do you want?" I met her furious gaze and forced 2 words through my clenched teeth. "Get away." At that point, I had no energy left to argue about love. The person who once cherished me, who promised to love me forever, was dead and gone. I went back to my room and sat in silence at my desk, the sound of their laughter drifting up from downstairs. "Chloe, how can Ethan be so dramatic? It was just a dog." Julian's sharp voice floated up. "Why would he make such a scene over it?" Chloe let out a cold laugh. "Just ignore him. I spoiled him, that's the problem. The Sterlings are finished, and with his heart condition, where else can he go? It's time I taught him a lesson about his place." I rose to my feet, my eyes vacant, moving like a zombie. I methodically searched every corner of my room, gathering every single thing Chloe had ever given me. The 99 love letters from when she was courting me, the custom music box, the kite we'd made together, the prayer charm she climbed a mountain to get from a temple when I was in the hospital, and countless other gifts, mementos, and clothes. These things had once been my only solace during the hardest years of my life. Now, the sight of them made me sick to my stomach. I stuffed everything into garbage bags, dragged them downstairs, and started a fire in the yard. I watched as every memory of us curled and blackened, turning to ash. The bags burned through, spilling their contents into the flames. Chloe saw the blaze from inside and rushed out, screaming at me. "Are you out of your mind?" She tried to run to the fire to save the items, but I blocked her path. Chloe was shaking with rage. "Fine. If our relationship means so little to you, then why should I care either? Ethan, I hope you don't live to regret this." That very day, she and Julian moved out. Before she left, she fired every last servant in the house. The next day, news that Chloe Williams, CEO of the Williams Corporation, had a new boyfriend was all over Northwood City. The photos showed her smiling, arm in arm with Julian, who looked every bit the successful man about town. He was the envy of the city. At the same time, a message from Chloe appeared on my phone. "See that? This is what happens when you disobey me." The relentless series of blows was too much for my heart. The next day, as I was packing my things, I had an attack. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Chloe had always been the one to manage my medication, having the staff keep it for me. In my panic, my first instinct was to call her. I called once, twice, 3 times. 28 times I called, and every call was rejected before her phone was turned off completely. As I closed my phone app, I saw Julian's new Facebook post. It was a photo of him and Chloe in swimsuits, holding hands on a beach in the Maldives at sunset. The caption read, "The CEO whisked me away on vacation. So relaxing except for some desperate people who keep calling. So annoying." Underneath, Chloe had immediately commented with 2 kiss face emojis. The pain in my chest seized me, sharp and blinding, bringing tears to my eyes. With the last of my strength, just before the world went black, I managed to dial 911. I'd had a massive heart attack. They worked to save my life all night at the hospital. When Chloe got the call the next day, she was on that beach in the Maldives. The doctor's voice was grim. "The patient, Ethan Sterling, has you listed as his emergency contact." She was stunned, but she booked the first flight back, Julian, dressed in expensive resort wear, trailing behind her. When she burst into my room, she found me curled up on the sterile white sheets, looking so fragile it made her chest tighten. A wave of guilt washed over her, and her voice softened. "Ethan, I'm so sorry I'm late." I lay there in silence, not saying a word. Chloe swallowed hard, offering a rare explanation. "I didn't ignore your calls on purpose yesterday. I just wanted to teach you a lesson." After a long pause, Julian, standing by the bed, started to cry. Ethan, if you have to blame someone, blame me. I'm the one who insisted Chloe take me on vacation. You two were together for so long. Please don't let me come between you. With that, he raised his hand and slapped himself across the face. I'll take the blame. I'll keep hitting myself until you forgive Chloe. Chloe, who moments before had been focused on me, immediately panicked. She grabbed Julian's hand. What are you doing? This has nothing to do with you. If anyone needs to apologize, it's me. I won't let him take this out on you. The whole scene was ridiculous. I hadn't said a single word, yet somehow I was the villain. I closed my eyes, my voice raspy. Just get out, both of you. I need to be alone. After they left, the tension finally drained from my body, and I fell into an exhausted sleep. I wasn't asleep for long before the door was kicked open, jolting me awake. Chloe threw a medical report onto my chest. See for yourself. You didn't have a heart attack last night. There was no emergency resuscitation. The facts are right here. What do you have to say for yourself? She despised being lied to, especially when it was a ploy for sympathy. Julian tugged at her sleeve, his voice full of hurt. Ethan, if you just wanted Chloe to pay more attention to you, you could have just said so. If I hadn't asked the doctor for an update, we never would have known you were lying. The chill emanating from Chloe was palpable, and her eyes were filled with undisguised contempt. Ethan, resorting to cheap tricks like this for attention. You really make your mother proud. It was the second time she'd used my mother's memory as a knife, and she twisted it deep. I shot up in bed, grabbed the water glass from the nightstand, and hurled it at them. Get out! The glass shattered against the wall, and a shard flew out, slicing a thin, bloody line on Julian's leg. Julian looked down at the cut and gasped. Ethan, is this my punishment? It's okay. I'll accept anything from you, as long as you're not angry anymore. Chloe's eyes fixed on the cut, her brow furrowed. Don't be ridiculous. I'm taking you to get that cleaned up. She carefully helped Julian out of the room, pausing by my bed to deliver a final, icy remark. Since you're perfectly fine, you can discharge yourself. Stop wasting hospital resources. In the end, all Julian needed was a small bandage on his leg. Before they left the hospital, he sent Chloe on ahead and slipped back into my room. The mask of innocence was gone, replaced by a look of pure triumph. Ethan, did you like the little present I brought you back from the Maldives? That's what you get for interrupting my vacation. He leaned close to my ear. And just so you know, this isn't over. There's an even bigger surprise coming your way. The 10th game is about to begin. A cold dread washed over me. This time, Julian hadn't given me a location or even a hint about the timing. I tried to calm myself. It didn't matter. I only had a few days left. As long as I could get out of the country before his next game started, I'd be fine. Once I felt strong enough, I went back to the estate to get my things. But as I stepped out the door, suitcase in hand, I came face to face with a furious Chloe. Trying to run away after what you did? She snarled, her eyes blazing with a fire that triggered my deepest, most primal fear. I knew that look. It always meant I was about to be punished. I took an involuntary step back, my voice shaking. What are you talking about? I don't understand. My suitcase clattered to the ground as she lunged forward, her hands closing around my throat. Still playing dumb? Julian is missing again. Who else could it be? You think you can just hide him and run? Where do you think you can go? The air in my lungs thinned, my face turning a dusky purple. I feebly clawed at her hands, forcing out the words. This time, I really don't know. Chloe just sneered, her grip tightening. Don't know? I think you're just a glutton for punishment. She dragged me to the edge of the decorative pond in the courtyard, a cruel light in her eyes. I heard you've always been afraid of water, that you never even learned to swim because of your health. She crouched down, her grip on my wrist like iron, her eyes red-rimmed. Ethan, please forgive me for this. I have no choice. Every second Julian is out there, he's in more danger. I can't risk it. Before I could react, she shoved my head under the water. Be a good boy. Just raise your hand when you're ready to talk. The icy water flooded my nose and mouth, and I thrashed wildly as a terrifying childhood memory surged to the surface. I was just a child, playing on the beach when a rogue wave dragged me out to sea. They revived me, but I was in critical condition for a month. My mother was so distraught she barely slept, wasting away from worry. When Chloe found out about it, she became my fierce protector, never letting me near the water alone. And now, she was the one holding me under. Just as my lungs were about to burst, her phone rang. She released me instantly, fumbling to answer the call. It was a video. Julian was unconscious on a beach, tied to a large rock. A masked man held a knife to his throat. Ms. Williams, I hear this man is very important to you. Get $10 million ready if you want him back. Seeing Julian's limp form, Chloe panicked. Don't hurt him. I'll give you anything you want. The kidnapper tapped Julian's cheek with the flat of the blade. Not good enough. A man named Ethan Sterling hired us for this job, but he didn't pay enough to make it worth our while. So here's a new deal. You know this Ethan guy. Break one of his legs for us, send the money, and you can have your boy back. Chloe quickly propped her phone on a nearby ledge, the camera aimed directly at me. I was on my hands and knees by a flower bed, coughing up water, looking like a drowned rat. Ethan Sterling is right here. That's him, Chloe screamed, pointing at me. Then she bent down and picked up a thick, heavy piece of wood from the garden. She pulled me into an embrace, stroking my wet hair. Ethan, I'm so sorry, but this is for your own good, to atone for what you've done. Don't hate me. From now on, I'll be your legs. And with those words, she swung the club. An explosion of agony erupted in my left leg. I thought I heard the sickening crack of bone giving way. The world went black, and I collapsed, my clothes instantly soaked with cold sweat. Chloe stood up, holding the phone so the kidnapper could see my mangled leg. His leg is broken. Can I have him back now? The man on the phone gave her an address. Bring the money. And just like that, she left me there and ran for her car. As she sped past, she rolled down the window. Ethan, this is the last time, I promise. When I get back, I'll make it all up to you. The car roared out of the driveway. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I dragged myself to the utility closet, found a pair of old canes, and somehow managed to call a car to take me to the airport. I hobbled through the airport, making it onto the plane just before takeoff. As the jet climbed through the clouds, I watched the city shrink below, and for the first time in years, the knot in my stomach began to unwind. I took out my phone and deleted every contact I had back home. From that moment on, the suffering was over. I could finally start a new life, and Chloe Williams, the woman who had nearly destroyed me, I would never see her again. Chloe arrived at the beach with the cash and, after a tense negotiation, secured Julian's release. She sped away from the scene, Julian in the passenger seat, already whining and rubbing his wrists. Chloe, you have no idea how rough they were. My wrists are killing me. I was so scared. Will you buy me a cake when we get back to make me feel better? Chloe gripped the steering wheel, murmuring, of course. But her mind was elsewhere. The moment she had secured Julian's safety, the reality of her own actions came crashing down on her. She had broken my leg. She had left me lying there, alone. My health was already so fragile. With an injury that severe, how much pain must I be in? As they passed a bakery, Chloe wrenched the steering wheel, heading straight for the estate. We're going home first. I'll have someone pick up a cake. Julian was confused. Normally, after one of his games, she would march off to punish me further. But today she seemed worried. He had almost been killed, and all Ethan got was a broken leg. What kind of punishment was that? But he knew better than to argue. He had to maintain his innocent act for Chloe. The car screeched to a halt at the estate, and Chloe leaped out, running into the yard. She circled the entire house, again and again, but there was no sign of me. Housekeeper! Butler! She yelled, before remembering she had fired them all. A tide of unease washed over her. She pulled out her phone and called me, only to be met with a cold, automated voice. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. She dialed again and again, like a woman possessed. On the 28th try, her finger froze. She remembered. Not long ago, I had called her 28 times, and she had been nothing but annoyed. She had never realized how desperate it felt to be on the other side of that silence. Chloe's head snapped up, a spark of hope in her eyes. His leg was broken. He would have to go to a hospital. If she checked every hospital in Northwood City, she would find him. She immediately called her executive assistant, her voice strained. I want a team checking every hospital in the city. Now, don't miss a single one. As she was leaving, Julian grabbed her arm. Chloe, he whispered, do you think Ethan arranged my kidnapping because he's still mad at me? Is that why he's hiding from you? In the past, a comment like that would have sent Chloe into a rage against me, and she would have stayed to comfort Julian. But this time, she just shot him a cool glance. Don't be ridiculous. Stay here. I'm going to find him. That night, every hospital in Northwood City was thrown into chaos as Chloe Williams and her team swept through, demanding to see records, telling everyone she was looking for her fiancé. The administrator of one hospital had been a good friend of my mother's. He hadn't looked kindly on Chloe since she'd gone public with her new relationship. Didn't you just announce you have a new boyfriend, Ms. Williams? I saw him on your company's social media page just this morning. The administrator crossed his arms, one eyebrow raised. So where did this fiancé suddenly come from? Chloe opened her mouth, but it took her a moment to find the words. I only have one fiancé, Ethan Sterling. He's just angry with me right now. The administrator snorted, his disdain obvious. Well, keep looking then. He's not here. It's a shame you only realize what you have after you've driven it away, Ms. Williams. Chloe searched for 3 days straight before returning to the estate, defeated. Julian rushed to meet her. Any luck? Did you find him? She sank onto the sofa and shook her head, a picture of despair. Ever since my family's downfall, I had never left her side. She remembered how devoted I used to be, how I'd call her if I was going to be out for even a few hours, how I'd bring her little gifts, calling her by her pet name, my eyes shining like stars. Chloe rubbed her temples, trying to pinpoint the moment I had stopped calling her by her first name. Julian watched her, his face a mask of concern, but inside he was ecstatic. With Ethan gone, everything was perfect. He hoped he would stay gone forever. He knelt beside her, patting her hand gently. Chloe, don't worry. Ethan must be furious to be hiding this well, but there might be a way to draw him out. Chloe looked up, clutching at the sliver of hope. What is it? Announce that you're marrying me, Julian said, his eyes gleaming with cunning. We'll have a huge wedding and post the marriage license on the company website. When Ethan sees it, he'll be so jealous he'll have to show himself. Once they were publicly married, even if I did come back, Julian would be the legal master of the house. Julian was lost in his fantasy when Chloe's icy words shattered it. She stared at him as if he were the world's biggest joke. What are you thinking? I have no intention of marrying you, not even as a fake-out. The only man I will ever marry is Ethan Sterling. You were just a diversion. Her voice was glacial. She lit a cigarette, the smoke obscuring her features, leaving only an impression of cold detachment. You've been around long enough. You should know your place. Julian was utterly floored. Chloe had spoiled him rotten. Watches worth tens of thousands, suits worth a fortune. All he had to do was ask. She had canceled important meetings to take him on vacation. She had taken his side every single time. He had believed her affection was real, that he was special. How could it be so meaningless? She had to be joking. He tried to smile, to play it off, but then he met her eyes. It was the look of a superior gazing down at an insect, a look he knew all too well from his childhood in the slums. Chloe would keep him around, spoil him, even use him to hurt me, but she would never, ever let him become a true part of the Williams family. Julian was smart enough to back down. He forced a sycophantic smile. Chloe, I was just kidding. Don't take it seriously. Chloe relaxed, the icy tension around her easing slightly. See that you don't. That night, alone in the vast, empty house, Chloe tasted true loneliness for the first time. On her way to the kitchen for a glass of water, her feet carried her, as if of their own accord, to my room. It was still a mess from when I had ransacked it, searching for every gift she'd ever given me before I burned them. She wandered the room, her heart aching at the sight of a shattered picture frame on the desk, the photo of us inside torn in two. She gathered the pieces, trying to glue them back together, but the jagged tear remained, an unfixable scar. Glue covered her hands, but it was a tidal wave of longing that finally overwhelmed her. She buried her face in the pillows of my empty bed and wept like a lost child. Ethan, come back, she sobbed. I'm not mad anymore. Just come back. I'll do anything you ask. For the 2 weeks I was gone, Chloe was a different person. She drank constantly, neglected her company, and spent her days staring at that broken, glued-together photograph. Julian tried everything to snap her out of it, but she would just frown and push him away. One night, after downing a glass of whiskey, she grabbed Julian's chin, her eyes like chips of ice. Tell me, what did I ever see in you? A cold sweat broke out on Julian's skin, and his eyes filled with tears. Chloe, don't you remember? I was an orphan. You felt sorry for me. You said you wanted to help me. You said I was handsome, that you liked having me around. Seeing his tear-filled eyes, it came back to her in a flash. The day he'd failed his interview for the assistant position, he had cried just like this. In that moment, she had thought he looked just like I used to. The same innocence, the same vulnerability. It made her want to protect him. On a whim, she had hired him. But then, I had slowly started to heal from my mother's death. I grew stronger, more independent. I had my own ambitions. I became a man who understood her pressures, who didn't cling to her, who started to build a life of his own. I loved my art. When I spoke about it, my eyes shone brighter than the sun. I dreamed of opening my own studio, my own gallery, my own brand. Chloe realized that her feeling of being needed was fading. The boy she had taken in was becoming a man who was starting to shine on his own, a man she felt slipping through her fingers. so she started to restrict me, forbidding me from leaving the house, from entering art competitions. But I didn't revert to my old, fragile self. Julian, on the other hand, was always there, always needing her, always clumsy, always getting into trouble. He worshipped her, his eyes full of adoration, just like mine had been all those years ago. The first time Julian disappeared, Chloe had even felt a little thrill. The stoic, independent man I had become was finally showing jealousy over someone else. She began to enjoy seeing me backed into a corner, forced to plead with her. She found my desperation, my vulnerability, appealing. To force Julian's location out of me, her methods became more and more extreme, more and more humiliating. Eventually, she couldn't even tell if she was doing it to save Julian or simply to satisfy her own twisted need for control over me. Whenever a flicker of guilt surfaced, she would soothe it with a simple lie. It was his fault to begin with. I'm just delivering justice. And with that thought, her conscience would be clear. Then one day, while sorting through old papers, she found a bank statement. A record of a large, suspiciously timed wire transfer made her pause. The money had been transferred the day after she'd paid Julian's ransom, the day after she'd broken my leg. The recipient was a name she didn't recognize. A horrifying suspicion began to form in her mind. She immediately ordered a full investigation. Soon, her assistant placed a thick file on her desk with a trembling hand. It was all there in black and white, Julian's calculated plan to get close to her. The 10 staged disappearances, all designed to drive me away. And the kidnapping, a complete fabrication, a con to swindle $10 million from her. Chloe had braced herself for the worst, but reading the truth, she began to tremble uncontrollably. Drenched in a cold sweat, she systematically destroyed her office, smashing everything within reach, while her terrified executives stood frozen outside the door. She screamed until her voice was raw, a fire of self-loathing in her eyes threatening to consume her. The first time, when Julian had hidden in that abandoned factory, he had told me where he would be. That was the time she'd cut off my hair to make me talk. The second time, she'd used her influence to destroy the art exhibition I had spent months preparing. The third, she'd made me kneel in the pouring rain for hours. The ninth, she'd locked me in that sauna. And the 10th, for a fake kidnapping, she had shattered my leg with her own hands. What she had called justice had been nothing but pure, unadulterated torture for me. And only now did she finally understand that I was truly gone. Not out of spite, not as a childish game, but because she, in league with a stranger, had hurt me so profoundly, so many times, that she had pushed me into an abyss from which I had to escape. I had given her 10 chances to believe me, 10 chances she had thrown away. When the disappointment finally became too much to bear, I left her for good. Chloe leaned on her desk, veins standing out on her forehead like angry snakes. She clenched her fists, trying to contain the all-consuming agony. Her assistant asked cautiously, "Ms. Williams, what are your instructions regarding Julian?" "Have him watched," Chloe snarled, her eyes burning with a new, focused hatred. "Since he was so desperate to be a part of the Williams family, I'll give him a taste of what it's like to fall from grace." With that, she grabbed her keys and sped off toward the hotel where the disastrous party had been held. Julian was only the first on her list. She was going to destroy everyone who had ever wronged me. She stormed into the hotel security office and demanded the surveillance footage from the night of the party. And there it was, the proof that I had never lied to her. The video clearly showed Brad Johnson swaggering up to me. "Who are you trying to fool with that holier-than-thou act? Ms. Williams has a new boy toy. You've been replaced." The insults made Chloe's face flush with rage. But when she saw Brad jab his finger into my chest, she exploded, smashing the monitor with her bare fist. "Go to the Johnson estate," she roared at her assistant. "Bring me Brad Johnson." Her assistant tried to reason with her. "Ms. Williams, the Johnsons are a powerful family. This might not be wise." "Not wise?" she shot back, a look so venomous that he immediately fell silent. She had navigated the corporate world for years. She knew how to play the game. But with me gone, the rules no longer applied. They found Brad Johnson lounging at an exclusive club. Chloe and her men stormed in, and she fired a single shot into the ceiling. The gunshot sent the club's patrons scrambling for cover. Staring down the barrel of her gun, Brad's legs gave out from under him. He raised his hands, trembling. "Chloe, what are you doing? Don't be crazy. Kill you here." Chloe sneered. "That would be letting you off too easy." She had her men bind him and drag him to the basement of her estate. In the pitch-black cellar, Brad was shaking uncontrollably. "Ms. Williams, we can talk about this. Let's not be hasty." Chloe slowly polished the blade of a knife, her eyes cold. Didn't you once swear to me that you would never lay a finger on Ethan Sterling? She tossed a tablet in front of him, the security footage playing on a loop. Then what do you call this? The video showed Brad's leering smile as he manhandled me, then played the victim, slandering me in front of the city's elite. Brad watched it and started to stammer out a defense. Ms. Williams, please don't be angry. I was only doing it for you. Chloe's frown deepened. For me? Yes, Brad said, a crafty look in his eyes. You had a new boyfriend. If Ethan wasn't always hanging around, you could have moved on. I was just trying to get him to take the hint and leave you alone. In a flash, a knife flew from Chloe's hand and embedded itself in the wooden post just above Brad's head. Her eyes were bloodshot, her expression demonic. When, she hissed, did I ever tell you he was the one clinging to me? Brad shrieked in terror. Ms. Williams, you were tired of him. You humiliated him yourself at that party. Remember? He seemed to find a sliver of courage. So I lied about him. You didn't have to believe me. You're checking the security footage now. Why didn't you check it then? The tension drained from Chloe's body, replaced by a crushing weight. He was right. Why had she believed him? If she had just believed me just once, if she had defended me and cleared my name, would I have left? Would things have ever gotten this bad? Brad thought he had gotten through to her and let out a sigh of relief. But then Chloe rose unsteadily to her feet. In a single, fluid motion, she slashed the knife across the back of his hand, leaving a gash that went clear to the bone. He let out an inhuman shriek, demanding to know why. Chloe's laugh was hollow and cruel. I was wrong. I deserve to go to hell for what I did, but I have to atone to Ethan first. However, you also hurt him, and I will make you pay for it. The hand was useless now. Brad's face was a mask of agony. You're insane. Chloe, you're completely insane. Chloe didn't seem to hear him. She was muttering to herself, her head bowed. This hand, it touched his chest. And the other one, Brad, it looks like you won't be keeping either of them. Another scream echoed in the basement as she crippled his other hand. Blood poured onto the stone floor. Brad was fading from blood loss, but Chloe didn't call a doctor. She had her men apply tourniquets, leaving him conscious to feel the full, agonizing pain. Brad, desperate now, began to curse at her. Chloe spun around and punched him in the mouth, knocking out his front teeth. Just wait, she said. I'll be sending you some company soon. Chloe left the basement and immediately had an announcement sent out. In 3 days, Julian would be officially joining the Williams family in a grand ceremony. Julian couldn't believe his luck. He rushed over to her house first thing in the morning. Chloe, 3 days is so soon. I don't even have a suit ready. Chloe replied coolly, I'm only free in 3 days. Take it or leave it. A flash of panic crossed Julian's face. Take it. Of course, I'll take it. Chloe sipped her tea. Should we invite your parents? She asked casually. Julian answered without thinking. My mother? No, she wouldn't be comfortable at an event like this. The words were barely out of his mouth when he realized his mistake. Chloe, my mother passed away years ago. It wouldn't be right. Chloe just smiled and changed the subject, seemingly satisfied. Julian breathed an inward sigh of relief. He dodged another bullet. She must still love him. Once they were married, he could bring his mother to the city, and Chloe would be none the wiser. A smile touched Julian's lips. Well then, I'm off to look at venues. I'll see you later. The moment he was gone, Chloe took out a handkerchief and scrubbed at the spot on her hand where he had touched her, then threw the cloth into the trash in disgust. News of the Grand Williams wedding spread like wildfire through Northwood City. Julian planned the entire affair, ordering the most expensive suit and booking the most lavish venue. On the day of the wedding, the stream of high-profile guests was a balm to his vanity. But when it was time for the bride to make her entrance, Chloe appeared at the end of the aisle in jeans and a t-shirt, pushing a large cage covered by a black cloth. Julian hurried over to her. Chloe, did you forget to change? Chloe took a deliberate step away from him and, with a flourish, whipped the cloth off the cage. Who said the bride isn't in her wedding dress? She said with a cold smile. Inside the cage sat an ugly, slobbering bulldog, dressed in a pristine white wedding gown. Chloe took the microphone from the officiant. This is my dog, Brutus. He's in heat, and I thought it was time he found a mate. And Mr. Julian here has graciously volunteered to be his spouse. Isn't that right? She had announced he was joining the Williams family. She never specified in what capacity. Marrying the family dog still counted, didn't it? The color drained from Julian's face. He grabbed Chloe's arm, shaking his head frantically. No, that's not right. Chloe, we've been together all this time. I'm supposed to be marrying you. Chloe yanked her arm free and plucked an invoice from a nearby waiter's tray. My fiancé is missing. I have no plans to marry anyone. So, are you saying you want to call off the wedding? Because if you are, then the Williams family is certainly not paying for it. She shoved a pen into his hand. The total cost for today's festivities comes to $80 million. Please sign here. Julian stared at the invoice in disbelief. How could it possibly cost that much? The moment the question left his lips, the wedding planner stepped forward and began to itemize the costs. The bride's gown is a custom design from Paris, valued at $2 million. The jewelry you're wearing was acquired at auction for $1 million. The wine for the reception was flown in from a private vineyard in France. Stop! Just stop! Julian screamed, clapping his hands over his ears. The very things he had used to flaunt his new status were now the chains dragging him down to hell. Chloe held out the invoice, her expression unreadable. So, Mr. Julian, what will it be? Marry my Brutus? Or sign for the $80 million? Julian bit his lip so hard that it bled. He stared at the snarling bulldog, then closed his eyes in resignation. I'll marry him. The words were barely out of his mouth before security guards were swarming the stage, erecting a steel cage around them. Chloe and the wedding staff stepped back, leaving Julian and Brutus alone inside the newly erected, spike-topped cage. Chloe smiled, a chilling, humorless expression. Since the groom has consented, let the ceremony begin. At her signal, a staff member opened the smaller cage holding the dog. The bulldog had clearly been trained for aggression. The sight of Julian sent it into a frenzy, and it lunged, its eyes red with fury. Julian scrambled to the bars of the cage, screaming for help from the wedding guests. But the assembled socialites just watched, mesmerized. This was far more entertaining than a normal wedding. Realizing no one was coming to his aid, Julian started running for his life inside the cage. The bulldog, in hot pursuit, misjudged a turn and impaled itself on one of the cage's spikes. The farce ended with the dog's injury. Chloe took them both, Julian and Brutus, back to the estate. The dog had 2 puncture wounds in its side. For that, Julian received 2 hard slaps across the face. You injured your spouse on your wedding day? Is this how a husband behaves? Julian collapsed to the floor, clutching his stinging cheek, the humiliation complete. He crawled over and clung to her leg. Chloe, what's wrong with you? It's just an animal. I'm not its husband. I'm yours. I only ever wanted to marry you. Chloe crouched down, wiped a tear from his eye with her thumb, then gripped his chin in a vice. It seems you still haven't learned your lesson. Didn't your parents teach you any manners? Julian was about to repeat his orphan story when 2 people were dragged into the room, bound and gagged. His parents. His father had been found at a casino. His mother had been apprehended at a luxury department store, telling the staff she was Chloe Williams' mother-in-law. Chloe nudged Julian with her foot. Well, do you know them? Julian kept his head down. No, I don't know them. Chloe raised an eyebrow. These 2 have caused me some trouble. Since you don't know them, I'll just have my men dispose of them. His parents immediately began to wail. Julian, you can't abandon us. They crawled towards him, clawing at his clothes. Julian recoiled in horror. Get away from me. I don't know you. His mother, seeing her son was a lost cause, turned and clung to Chloe's leg. My dear daughter-in-law, I really am his mother. I have his birth certificate right here. Chloe looked down at the pathetic man on the floor. An orphan, you said? Lost your parents at a young age. Julian started to panic. I didn't mean to lie. I just wanted you to feel sorry for me. Chloe, please, don't be mad. Chloe had reached her limit. She threw the thick investigation file in his face. Not intentional? And I suppose all those disappearances, all the times you framed Ethan, those weren't intentional either. Julian's trembling fingers flipped through the pages of irrefutable proof. Now he was truly terrified. He had used me to get to where he was. He knew exactly how much Chloe had once loved me. If she hadn't, why would he have needed 10 elaborate schemes to tear us apart? He fell to his knees, bowing his head to the floor. Ms. Williams, please, just let me go. I'll leave now. I'll never bother Ethan again. His mother suddenly piped up. But isn't that Ethan kid long gone? Chloe grabbed the woman by the collar, her eyes practically bleeding with rage. Who said he's gone? He's just hiding from me. My Ethan would never leave me. A bodyguard, reading the room, quickly slapped a piece of duct tape over the woman's mouth and dragged her away. Julian seized the opportunity to throw his mother under the bus. Ms. Williams, the fake disappearances were all her idea. It had nothing to do with me. Punish her. I'm innocent. Chloe didn't even look at him. Don't worry, she said. None of you are going anywhere. Julian's parents were sent to work in a diamond mine in Africa, to labor day and night until they had repaid their debt to Chloe. Julian himself was moved into the dog kennel, where he was made to personally attend to his new spouse. After 2 weeks, a psychiatrist reported that Julian was on the verge of a complete mental breakdown. So, Chloe had Julian removed from the kennel and thrown into the basement with Brad Johnson, locking them in together. She wouldn't allow Julian the mercy of insanity. He had to be lucid to suffer, to repay every ounce of pain he had caused me. She instructed the guards to give him just 1 piece of bread a day, and to tell him that the moment she found me, he would be set free. The cruelest thing in the world isn't despair. It's a sliver of hope. And so Julian, the man who had wished for my destruction, now spent his days in that dark cell praying for my swift return. When the Johnson family finally came for their heir and found him barely alive, they declared all-out corporate war on the Williams family. The Williams family elders begged Chloe to de-escalate, but she refused. She cut ties with them all and, over the next 2 months, waged a ruthless campaign, nearly bankrupting her own company to utterly destroy the century-old Johnson dynasty. After that, everyone in Northwood City agreed. Chloe Williams had lost her mind. She adopted a puppy that looked uncannily like my snowflake. She painstakingly recreated every painting of mine she could find a record of. She spent her days sitting alone in the yard with her dog and her canvases, a ghost in her own home. This continued for 5 years, until the day her assistant burst in. "Ms. Williams, we've found Mr. Sterling." The woman who had been sleepwalking through life for half a decade shot up in bed, suddenly alive again. She immediately ordered a ticket for a flight to Italy. I had been living in Europe for 5 years. In that time, I'd graduated from the art academy and opened my own successful studio. Life without Chloe, it turned out, was surprisingly wonderful. The biggest surprise, however, was running into Sophia Miller. Our parents had arranged for us to be married one day, a promise made before either of us was even born. The Millers and the Sterlings were old family friends, both prominent business families back in Northwood City. Our mothers had made the pact while they were both pregnant. But when I was born with a congenital heart defect, my father, a man of honor, insisted on breaking the engagement, despite the Millers' protests that it didn't matter. Sophia had always looked after me like a big sister, until we were 10, when her family's business took them overseas. After that, we lost touch. The day I landed, the pain in my broken leg was so intense I nearly passed out. I finally collapsed from exhaustion right there in the airport terminal. A crowd of strangers gathered around me. I was alone in a foreign country, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, and in so much pain I thought I was going to cry. Sophia was at the airport that day seeing off a client. We hadn't seen each other in over a decade, but she recognized me instantly. When she hesitantly called my name, I looked up at her familiar face, and my eyes welled with tears. Just like she used to when we were children, she took off her jacket and draped it over my injured leg. "It's okay, Ethan. Don't worry. I'll take you to the hospital." Thankfully, they were able to set the bone properly. Once I was a bit more stable, Sophia came into my room. "Ethan," she asked gently, "who broke your leg?" I couldn't meet her eyes. "No one. I fell." Sophia turned her head away, a hurt look on her face. We hadn't seen each other in years, and now I was lying to her. Her hand, resting on my bed, was trembling. "It was Chloe Williams, wasn't it? How did you know?" I started to ask, but then it hit me. She must have been keeping tabs on me all this time. Sophia's hand balled into a fist, and she slammed it against the metal bed frame. "You just wait. I'm going to fly back there and deal with her myself." She spun around to leave, but I leaned over and grabbed her arm. "Sophia, no, don't go. If she went back, Chloe would find out where I was. She would come for me. I was done with the past. All I wanted was to be free." Sophia understood, but I could see the anger and injustice simmering in her eyes on my behalf. How could anyone treat her wonderful Ethan this way? "You ran away from her, didn't you?" My silence was all the answer she needed. Her eyes filled with pain. "Ethan, if I had known what she was doing to you, I would have come and gotten you years ago." I shook my head. I couldn't deny that what Chloe and I had was real. Once, I didn't regret the good years. But now, all that was left was disappointment and a deep, burning hatred. I never wanted to see her face again. After my leg healed, the Millers took me into their home. When Sophia's father heard about my mother's death, he was overcome with guilt for not being there to help our family. He decided to channel all the regret he felt into taking care of me. Mr. and Mrs. Miller treated me like their own son. They would hold my hands, their eyes wet with tears. "Ethan, Chloe Williams may not want you, but we do. This is your home now. We'll be your parents." No one had shown me that kind of parental love since my mother died. I couldn't help it. I broke down and wept. They paid for my tuition, allowing me to focus completely on my art. They also found the best specialists in the world, determined to find a way to fix my heart. I had long since accepted my condition, but Sophia and her parents refused to give up. After 5 years of treatments, the day of my final surgery had arrived. The doctors were optimistic. If this operation was a success, I could finally be cured. When they wheeled me out of the operating room, the surgeon pulled down his mask and smiled. The surgery had been a complete success. Sophia, who had been holding her breath the entire time, collapsed into a chair and burst into tears of relief. After 2 months of recovery, I felt better than I had in my entire life. To celebrate, Mr. and Mrs. Miller threw a small family dinner party. During the meal, Mrs. Miller brought up, a little too casually, "Ethan, you're not getting any younger. It's about time you found a nice girl." She took my hand warmly. "What kind of girl are you looking for? I can help you vet them. We'll find you the perfect wife." Sophia, who had just taken a sip of water, nearly choked. Her father shot her a disapproving look. "Sophia, your manners." Sophia, flustered, began to stammer. "Mom, there's no rush. Ethan only graduated a year ago. He needs to focus on his career." Her mother gave her a sharp look. "No rush? Do you want him to end up single forever, like you?" Sophia snuck a glance at me, her cheeks flushing. "I'm just saying there's no hurry. When the time is right, I'll help him find someone." Her mother laughed. "You're so picky. If we leave it up to you, the poor boy will never get married. If he can't find anyone else, I'll marry him." Sophia blurted out. A stunned silence fell over the table. My face was on fire. "Sophia, what are you talking about?" Seeing that her secret was out, Sophia decided to own it. She looked me straight in the eye. "Ethan, I'm serious. I've loved you since we were children. It's just, your mother never approved." She scratched the back of her head, embarrassed but determined. "And now, in front of my parents, I can finally say it. I love you, Ethan. I always have." The sudden confession left me reeling. I shot to my feet, stammering, "I just remembered. I have something I need to do at the studio. I have to go." After I'd made my escape, I heard Mrs. Miller chiding her daughter. "See? You were too eager. You scared him off." It had been 5 years since Chloe, and in that time, I'd been so focused on my health and my art that I hadn't even thought about romance. But I wasn't blind. I saw how good Sophia was to me. I just didn't know how I felt about her, and so I ran. I went down to the river and let the wind clear my head, pushing her confession to the back of my mind. Right now, the most important thing was my first solo exhibition. During the planning stages, my agent told me a wealthy investor from back home had put up a huge amount of money to fund the show. "Who was it?" I asked immediately. "No idea," my agent said. "The investment was anonymous. Probably just a fan of your work." Something felt wrong, but my agent was pragmatic. "Ethan, you said you didn't want to use the Miller's money. This is the perfect solution. You can pay back the investor after the show, once your pieces have sold." It made sense, so I let it go. On the day of the exhibition, the Millers were the first to arrive. My work was well received, drawing praise from critics and collectors alike. Halfway through the event, a woman in a full wedding gown stepped out from behind a curtain, holding a bouquet of flowers and walking straight towards me. When she reached me, she dropped to one knee. "My dearest Ethan, this is my surprise for you. Can you ever forgive me?" I pushed aside the flowers she was holding up to my face, and there she was, Chloe, the face I had grown to despise more than any other. Without a second thought, I slapped the bouquet from her hands. 5 years had passed, but standing there before her, I couldn't stop my body from shaking. The suffocating heat of the sauna, the searing pain of my legs snapping, it all came rushing back, as vivid as the nightmares that still haunted me. Every ounce of my suffering, every misunderstanding, every moment of pain, it was all because of her. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. Chloe picked up the scattered flowers and offered them to me again. "Ethan, don't be upset. I was your anonymous investor. I just wanted to surprise you." The commotion drew a crowd. People stopped looking at the art and started looking at us. Chloe continued, oblivious. "I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry for everything. I chose today, this special day, for you to apologize. I was hoping, for the sake of everything we once were, you could forgive me." The initial panic gave way to a wave of incredulous anger. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I brought my foot down on the bouquet she was still holding out, grinding the flowers into the floor. "Chloe, do you really think you're that clever? Did you think that by hijacking my first exhibition, I would actually thank you?" She looked genuinely confused. "Ethan, I did my research. This is your first big show. I thought, I thought men liked grand, romantic gestures like this. I clutched my chest, my head spinning with rage. Like it? Chloe, do you have any idea what you've done? You've ruined it. You've ruined everything. I gestured wildly at the gawking crowd. Look around. Is anyone looking at my art? No. They're all staring at me at this circus. They're laughing at me. I glared at her, my jaw tight. And you're the one who turned me into a joke. I had worked for this day for so long. From my first day of art school, I had dreamed of this moment, of sharing my work, my world, with everyone. And in one selfish, theatrical gesture, Chloe had poured a bucket of filth over all of it. She finally started to look panicked. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't think. I just wanted to make you happy. Stop. I cut her off, a deep weariness settling over me. You didn't do this for me. You did this for you, to make yourself feel better. I don't want it. You're not welcome here. Get out. Chloe opened her mouth to argue, but before she could, Sophia, who had been watching from a distance, strode over and slapped her hard across the face. Didn't you hear him? He said get out. Then she turned, putting herself between me and the curious onlookers. The force of the slap snapped Chloe's head to the side. When she saw Sophia standing protectively in front of me, her eyes blazed with fury. Who the hell are you? She shrieked. What right do you have to touch him? This is my turf now. Sophia shot back. She hadn't wanted to cause a scene, but Chloe's insane behavior had pushed her too far. She told her mother to get me out of there. Then she rolled up her sleeves and cracked her knuckles, her eyes hard as steel. You can't tell who I am to him? Every bit of pain you caused him 5 years ago, I'm gonna pay you back for it right now. Another slap, this one even harder, sent Chloe stumbling backward. Sophia advanced on her, her expression grim. Chloe, I've been wanting to do that for a very long time. If you know what's good for you, you'll stay down. But Chloe was far from done. She scrambled to her feet and launched herself at Sophia, and the two of them went down in a tangle of limbs. They were brawling in the middle of the gallery floor when security finally arrived and pulled them apart. When they were separated, Chloe's face was swollen and bruised, her ridiculous wedding dress torn and stained with blood. Sophia, on the other hand, had only a small cut on her lip. It was clear who had won the fight. As the guards dragged Chloe out, she was still screaming, her voice raw with a sick, obsessive passion. As long as I'm alive, no one else can have him. Ethan is mine. He will always be mine. Hearing her crazed threats, Sophia's anger flared again. I should have finished you, she yelled after her. Her father rushed to her side, grabbing her arm. Sophia, calm down. It's not worth it. Back at the miller's house, I was pacing anxiously. When Sophia walked in and I saw the cut on her face, my own eyes started to burn. I'm so sorry, I said, my head bowed. I never thought she would find me. This is all my fault. Sophia smiled and gently wiped a tear from my cheek. Don't be ridiculous. She paused, then adopted a playful tone. Even if you turn me down, you're not going to disown your little sister, are you? It's a sister's duty to stand up for her big brother. She poked me on the nose. Silly Ethan, what are you crying for? I sniffed and pulled myself together. Okay, I'm not crying. I'll go get the first aid kit for your lip. As I gently dabbed the antiseptic on her lip, she hissed in pain. I pulled back instantly. Does it hurt? She grabbed my wrist and guided my hand back to the cut, smiling as she shook her head. Not at all. She couldn't stand seeing me so down, so she tried to cheer me up. Guess what? You should have seen me today. This little cut is nothing. I'm pretty sure I put that crazy woman in the hospital. Did I get good revenge for you? She made a goofy, snarling face at me, just like she used to when we were kids. It was so silly and so cute that I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. I looked at her and said, with all the seriousness I could muster, my sister is the toughest girl in the world. After the beating she took, Chloe stayed away for a while. Mrs. Miller, still worried about my recovery, insisted on taking me for a follow-up appointment at the hospital. Partway through, she got an urgent call from her office and had to leave. I was just leaving the doctor's office when I ran right into Chloe, who was being discharged. She rushed over to me, her face lighting up with hope. Ethan, you came to see me. You do still care about me, don't you? I'm here for a checkup, I said, my voice flat, as I tried to walk past her. Not for you. She moved to block my path. A checkup for what? What's wrong? The irony was staggering. Chloe, you know exactly what's wrong with me. Or have you forgotten that I nearly died of a heart attack in your house? She grabbed my arm, her fingers tightening. I'm sorry. I was just worried. Then came the shameless demand. Come home with me. I can't stand the thought of you all alone in a foreign country. I wrenched my arm free. Are you done with the act, Chloe? Anyone watching would think you were the world's most devoted girlfriend. But I remember your care. I remember you torturing me for Julian, locking me in that sauna, holding my head underwater, killing my dog, breaking my leg. I'm lucky I got out of that house alive. I have a new life now, a good life, and you want to drag me back into that hell? I'll tell you right now, it's never going to happen. Every word was a dagger, and I watched them sink into her heart. She clutched her chest, her explanation choked with sobs. Ethan, please let me explain. Julian manipulated me. I wasn't thinking clearly. I know the truth now that he staged everything. I never cared about him. At first, he reminded me of you. I know you hate him. I have him locked in my basement. If you come back with me, you can do whatever you want to him. Kill him, torture him, I don't care. I shook my head, backing away from her as if she were a stranger. You're wrong. I do hate Julian, but I hate you more. As vile as he was, all he did was lie. He didn't force you to believe him. He didn't force you to come up with a dozen different ways to torture me. You were the one who did all that, Chloe. You were always the one responsible. You think one "I'm sorry" can erase all of that? Who is going to pay for my pain, for my broken heart? The moment I got on that plane 5 years ago, we were finished. I will never forgive you. Seeing my resolve, Chloe changed tactics. If you won't come home with me, then I'll move my company here. From now on, wherever you are, that's where I'll be. The old fear, the feeling of being trapped, washed over me. The color drained from my face. No, I don't want that. I don't want to see you ever again. Not here, not anywhere. She grabbed my hands and fell to her knees, her eyes red and wild, like a woman who had lost her mind. Ethan, look at me. Do you really hate me that much? Your mother asked me to take care of you. She made me promise. I can't let you leave me. I stared at her crazed face as it moved closer to mine, and I started to tremble. I tried to pull away, but the more I struggled, the more frantic she became. I opened my mouth and yelled, "Help! Somebody help me! This woman is harassing me!" A crowd quickly gathered, and hospital security moved to escort Chloe away. She let go of me, a bitter smile on her face. To get away from her, I had been willing to publicly humiliate myself. I stumbled away, still shaken, letting the crowd shield me from her. As I reached the exit, her voice echoed down the hall behind me. Ethan Sterling, I will never give up on you. After the incident at the hospital, Sophia hired a full-time security detail for me, protecting me around the clock. But during a shift change, someone managed to slip into my studio and drug me. I woke up on a private jet, my hands bound. Chloe was leaning over me, carefully patting the ropes at my wrists with cotton. My heart hammered in my chest. Where are you taking me? After she finished, she tightened the ropes. She gazed at my face with a look of pure obsession and smiled. I'm taking you home, Ethan. The helicopter engines roared, and I screamed to be heard over the noise. Let me go. I don't have a home. The Williams estate is not my home. Chloe pressed a finger to my lips. Shoo, save your strength. We're almost there. I glared at her, my eyes burning with hatred. You can't just take me like this. When Sophia finds out I'm gone, she'll come for you. She won't let you get away with this. The mention of Sophia's name sent her into a rage. She swept everything off the table beside her, then grabbed my chin, her eyes blazing with jealousy. Don't you dare mention another woman's name to me. Are you trying to kill me? She caught herself and visibly reined in her temper. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean that. Just promise me. Whoever Sophia is to you, when we get home, you'll forget her. You have me now. I'll be so much better to you than she ever could. I looked at her unhinged expression, but my voice was calm. She never tried to force me to do anything. In that way, Chloe, you will never compare to her. Enough, she cried, pulling me into a rough embrace. You only say that because you've forgotten. I know I was wrong. I've changed. Ethan, just come home with me. You'll remember how good we were. It was useless to argue. She was beyond reason. So, swallowing my disgust, I stopped fighting. I went still and silent. Seeing my compliance, she finally started to calm down. The helicopter landed, and she took me straight back to the Williams estate. It had been 5 years. The pond in the yard had been filled in. The moment I stepped inside, a little white dog that looked just like Snowflake ran up to greet me, its tail wagging furiously. She had turned one of the rooms into a gallery, filled with recreations of the paintings she had burned. They were clumsy copies, lacking the life of the originals. She must have painstakingly recreated them, stroke by stroke, from the security footage of my old studio. She showed me around as if expecting praise. What do you think? It's beautiful, isn't it? I've kept it exactly the same as when you left. I've taken care of everything myself all these years. She pulled me upstairs. Come, let me show you your room. My old room was pristine, filled with all my familiar things. But the closet was now stocked with all the latest luxury goods, watches, and designer clothes. She held up a watch, then another. Look, Ethan, do you like them? Chloe, I said, my voice flat, dousing her enthusiasm. I don't care about these things anymore, and no matter how beautiful you make this place, it's still a cage. I want my own life, my own career. I want to be free. Can you understand that? The smile on her face was strained. Ethan, I'm not taking away your freedom. I just want you by my side. But that's the same thing, I argued. The only freedom I want is the freedom to never see you again. She looked at me in disbelief. Ethan, you're joking, right? You've seen everything I've done for you. You can't still be this cruel to me. Are you testing me? Is that it? Suddenly, an idea seemed to strike her. Oh, I have one more thing to show you. When you see it, you'll have to forgive me. She took my hand and led me, with an air of great secrecy, down to the basement. The basement was dark and smelled of damp and decay. In the center of the room, Julian was kneeling, his arms chained to the ceiling. His clothes were stiff with filth, his hair matted to his scalp. When the door opened, he mechanically lifted his head. Years of isolation had robbed him of the ability to speak. When he saw me, his eyes, once dull and lifeless, lit up, and he began to make desperate, inarticulate sounds. I stared at the wretched creature before me, barely recognizing him. Chloe smiled, a triumphant, ugly expression. It's Julian, the man who framed you. I've kept him here for you, ever since you left. He's broken now. You can do whatever you want to him. The light in Julian's eyes turned to terror, and he shook his head, babbling incoherently. Chloe had promised him that when I returned, he would be set free. Why was she breaking her promise? I looked at the pathetic man and said, simply, break one of his legs and throw him out. I had no great vendetta against Julian. The fault for everything that had happened lay with her. Julian looked at me with an expression of profound gratitude, and then Chloe plunged a dagger into his heart. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a bloodthirsty light. Ethan, after everything he did to you, I could never let him live. In that moment I knew Chloe was truly irrevocably insane. There was no reasoning with her, no appealing to her humanity. I took advantage of her distraction to run, but I didn't get more than a few steps before she caught me. She locked me in my old bedroom, my hands and feet bound in chains that allowed me only to move within the confines of the room. She brought me my 3 meals a day herself and insisted on feeding me by hand. The rest of the time, she never left my side, keeping a constant vigil in the room. Chloe would just stare at my face, the face she had obsessed over for 5 years, refusing to let me go. She would kiss my forehead and murmur, "The moment you fall in love with me again, Ethan, is the moment I'll set you free." I decided to play her game. "I'm already in love with you. You can let me go now." She just smiled and shook her head. "But your eyes tell a different story. They tell me you're lying, that you're just trying to use my love to escape." But this imprisonment didn't last long. Before long, Sophia found me. When Sophia arrived with the police, Chloe showed no sign of panic. She was in the middle of feeding me my lunch. Sophia roared, "Let him go!" Chloe held up a finger, signaling for quiet. "What are you doing? You're upsetting Ethan. He's such a picky eater. When his appetite is poor, I have to feed him myself. He's such a good boy, though. He always eats for me." She continued feeding me, spoonful by spoonful, until the bowl was empty. Only then did she acknowledge the others in the room. She set the bowl down and knelt before me. "Ethan, I'm asking you one last time. Can you truly not forgive me?" I shook my head firmly. "No, even if I love you more now than I ever did before?" My reply was blunt. "That's your problem, and frankly, I can't afford your kind of love." Tears streamed down Chloe's face as she nodded slowly. "I understand." She calmly produced a key and unlocked my chains. The moment I was free, Sophia rushed forward and threw her arms around me. The police immediately closed in around Chloe. "You're under arrest for murder and kidnapping. You need to come with us." But before they could cuff her, Chloe produced a sharp knife. It had been lying on the table nearby, as if she had placed it there in preparation for this moment. "What are you doing? Drop the knife," an officer commanded. Chloe ignored them, her eyes fixed on me, standing beside Sophia. "Do you know, Ethan, if you had forgiven me, I truly would have spent the rest of my life making it up to you. But you didn't. You blame me. You've always blamed me. I thought about letting you go, about setting you free, but I couldn't. Every time I close my eyes, all I see is you. The guilt, the longing, it's been driving me insane. Do you have any idea?" She shook her head, tears carving paths down her cheeks. No, you couldn't possibly understand, because you don't love me anymore. Her eyes were red, but her voice was suddenly firm. Since it has come to this, I'll give you back what I took. With those words, she raised the knife and, with two swift, brutal motions, severed her own hand and foot. Blood gushed onto the floor. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she bit her tongue and made no sound. She sank to one knee, her head bowed like a vanquished soldier, and asked through the agony, "Is this enough?" She was taken away before I could answer. After everything I had been through, I finally understood my own heart. I had feelings for Sophia, feelings that went far beyond brotherly affection. When she was hurt, I worried. When I was in danger, she was the one I hoped would come for me. Unlike what I'd felt for Chloe, my feelings for Sophia weren't based on dependence, but on unconditional trust. Sophia was a fundamentally good person. Her upbringing, her character, it simply wasn't in her to be cruel. Her parents, worried for my safety, flew back from a business trip. This time, Sophia confessed her feelings to me again, this time in private. There were no grand gestures, no drones or fields of roses. Just a cake she had baked herself and a wonderful meal she had cooked from scratch. Across the table, she looked at me, her expression a mixture of shyness and sincerity. "Last time, with everyone there, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but now it's just us. You can say whatever you feel, whether it's yes or no." I just looked at her, and the longer the silence stretched, the more nervous she became. Just as she was about to break the silence, I leaned in and kissed her on the cheek. She froze for a second, then a look of pure, unadulterated joy spread across her face. She jumped up and spun around on the balcony. "He said yes. I'm finally going to marry him." I poked her in the cheek. "Who said anything about marriage?" She just grinned. "Too late. You can't take it back now." Sophia and I set our wedding date for my next birthday. The Millers insisted on holding the ceremony back home in Northwood City to make a statement. They invited every old friend of both the Miller and Sterling families, sending a clear message to the entire city. Ethan Sterling was one of them now, and he was protected. Whether out of kindness or a wicked sense of humor, Sophia had an invitation sent to the state penitentiary. Chloe's crimes had earned her a life sentence without parole. If she had just kept her head down, she could have lived out her days in prison. But when she received the invitation to my wedding, something in her must have snapped. She said nothing, went about her routine as usual. But the night before my wedding, the guards found her dead in her cell. She had bitten off her own tongue, and on the wall, written in her own blood, was a final demand, that I be the one to claim her body. Even in death, she had tried to disrupt my happiness, to cast a shadow over my wedding day. But when the warden called me, my reply was cold and brief. "I am not her next of kin. That is a matter for her family to handle." The wedding went on as planned. No one's day was ruined by the news of Chloe's death. The long, dark chapter of my life was finally over. I walked down the aisle and into a new life,